If you've been on TikTok at all the last couple months, you've probably heard this song Golden Hour by Jake. It's so overplayed. There's like 86,000 TikTok videos that have used it as the soundtrack. And it's not just TikTok. It's got 162 million streams so far on Spotify, and it hit number 71 on the Billboard Hot 100. Jake's story is a bit of a unique situation in the music industry right now, but it's foreshadowing some big changes that are about to come, and I want to give you my take on it. It's a really cool piano part. Let's jump ahead to the chorus and see where it goes.
I don't need no light to see you shine. It's your golden hour.
If I were a music label, I'd feel a little bit nervous about what's going on with this song. Jake's a great musician, but it's really his storytelling ability on social media that made him blow up. His videos are heartwarming to watch. He's got one where he plays his hit song back for his childhood piano teacher. He's taken his grandmother blindfolded into Times Square and reveals his name in lights to her. We get to watch his mom tear up on the couch while she's watching him perform live on MTV. It's just feel-good stuff. His videos are much more than just a performance of the song. It's a story of him showing appreciation to the people that supported him early in his music career, and now that he's made it big, he's bringing it back to them so they can be proud of him. As somebody who's watched this story unfold in real time, the story and the song are connected for me. Every time it comes up in my Spotify, I immediately think back to those stories of him with his teacher and his grandmother. Jake is not the first independent musician to build an audience on social media. We've been doing that for a long time in order to get the attention of the labels. It's so hard to get your demo in front of them before. In fact, Justin Bieber might be the trailblazer here. He was posting his videos up on YouTube until they grew so popular that the labels couldn't ignore him anymore. Or maybe somebody like a teenage Billie Eilish who was making music with her brother in their bedrooms. Most of these artists are leveraging their big social media followings to get good terms with the music labels. Like Justin Bieber, I think, is with Def Jam Records, and Billie Eilish went to Interscope. Or you can also put my man Jacob Collier in this category. He blew up on YouTube. Instead of joining a record label, he just went off and started his own, Hajanga Records. But so far, Jake looks to be heading down a different path. You know, the other artists were building their audiences so they could have proof to take to the labels and pursue a deal, but Jake seems to be actively running away from the labels. The labels have to be throwing him money. He's definitely got enough of a following and popularity to deserve it, but he's deciding to stay independent and work with small collaborators instead. This is interesting. All of this illuminates big changes that are starting to happen in the music industry. Look, I'm not here to dog on the music labels. I think what they contribute is really important. You know, they produce and distribute and market the biggest artists. The stuff that I listen to every day comes out of the music label. But I think what this is starting to show is that the grip that they have on the music industry is starting to loosen up a little bit, and people like Jake are finding alternative paths to avoid working with them. Let's talk about what a large record label might offer to somebody like Jake. Record labels have connections, so you could work with some of the best music producers and the best writers in the industry, and that's nothing to sneeze at. And they also have deals with multi-million-dollar, top-of-the-line recording studios and some of the best sound engineers available. Undoubtedly, there are benefits to working with these bigwigs and these expensive studios and this equipment, but if you listen to the song that Jake is producing in his bedroom, it's pretty darn good. As the technology in these consumer-grade products continues to get better, it gets harder and harder to justify the enormous expense of renting studio time. Again, Billie Eilish and her brother Phineas produced Bad Guy in their bedroom. It's one of the top songs of the decade, and the quality is impeccable. So if the production resources are not enough for Jake, what else do they have to offer? Well, they have distribution, right? Music labels used to be the only way you could get yourself some radio play. The only way that we get your CD into the music stores. But that's not how people listen to music anymore. They listen on Spotify and Apple Music. But you don't need the music labels to get that kind of distribution. There are 100 services online where you can pay $30, upload your songs, and they show up in Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon Music. They show up right away. So I don't think he needs the production or the distribution capabilities that the labels have to offer them. He's already got 162 million streams on Spotify, and he's a top 100 song in the country right now. So I do think the labels have something to offer Jake that he needs, which is not production or distribution, but it's marketing. Don't get me wrong, Jake's a good marketer. He's got himself 9 million subscribers on TikTok, I think around 4 million on YouTube, and again, he's got a lot of streams, so he's doing things really well. But 10 million subscribers is nothing compared to Taylor Swift or Billie Eilish or Justin Bieber, right? The logistics of managing the public image of a brand like Taylor Swift is just incredible. This is not something you do with a small team. It's a huge endeavor. It's going to be really hard for him to land huge brand deals or to perform on big award shows or to have arena tours and sell merchandise in mainstream stores. Those kind of things because so much of that is exclusive or owned by the labels. Now, Jake has speed run through all of that because of the platforms like TikTok and Instagram. As good as Jake is at social media and storytelling, that's not the only reason he blew up. I've heard some of my fellow musicians rather flippantly say that the only reason that this song is popular is because Charli D'Amelio did a dance to it in front of her 148 million TikTok subscribers. And don't get me wrong, that kind of exposure certainly helped, but it's not the whole story. I mean, Golden Hour is just a great song. Mostly a great song, but we'll come back to that. But let's check out the chorus again. The melody in this chorus is great. It's just so singable. You can totally sing along with this in your car and keep up. And it's harmonically really simple. There's only 2 chords in the whole thing. It's a 4 chord to a 1 chord. In this case, we're in the key of E major. So we're talking about an A major chord to an E major chord. To give you a little heads up, if you try to play along with this on your piano at home, you're going to have a little bit of a problem because the whole song is tuned down to A430. So I have to take my electric piano and go from here down to here. Let's look at the chords. Again, it's 4 to 1. We're in the key of E major, so that means A major 7 to E major 7. So the thing that makes this melody so special is that the whole melody revolves around just one note, G sharp. And that G sharp is a note that's in common between both chords. An A major 7, it's the major 7, and an E major 7, it's the 3rd. The reason that the melody in this chorus has such an emotional pull is because he uses such a colorful note. So to ramp up on that emotional pull, he adds even a little bit more tension by having the melody use this B note. The B is the 9 in this A major 7, and it's the 5 in the E major 7. And then to add even a little bit more emotion and tension, he adds a second counter melody that does this, outlining the major 7 of the E major chord. Now that we figure out that chorus, let's go back to the verse. Notice that the verse has basically the same 2 chords as the chorus. It's fancied up a little bit with these piano lines that we're going to get into, but he's basically still going from A major 7 to E major 7. And then the last chord of the verse is that same E major chord. So the verse isn't quite as simple as the chorus. Between the 4, the A, and E, the 1, he adds 2 more notes. So we start here on A. Then he goes to G sharp minor. Then he goes to F sharp minor. And then he lands on E. So this piano part sounds really interesting, but it's really not that complicated, especially if you break it down into left hand versus right hand. The left hand is just doing something we call an Alberti bass. He's just taking the 3 notes of the major chord and he's just kind of wiggling them in this pattern. This pattern was made famous actually by Mozart. While the left hand is doing that, the right hand is just basically outlining notes of the major scale. He's just picking nice, colorful notes. Oftentimes when we see a song like this where the verse is nice and subtle but the chorus needs to get big, you see a change in the harmony when you go to the chorus. But that doesn't happen here. It's the same chords. It's A major to E major. And so the way that he transitions between the 2 is interesting. One really common way to do this transition would be to use a dominant chord. So we're going to the 4 chord, which is A. So we could find the 5 of A and we could use that as a dominant chord. Then E dominant. And that takes us to the A major 7. So I think that sounds great. It's totally common. We would see that in a lot of songs. We wouldn't think twice about it, but it's not what he does. Instead of playing an E dominant 7, he plays G sharp major. This is a really creative choice because a lot of pop music doesn't use dominant chords anymore. It sounds too old-fashioned, and so they're using chords like this. But the other reason it's great is that look at the two notes that the G sharp major chord has. Here's our G sharp major chord, and it has the G sharp, which has been our melody note on everything. It's that major 7 in the key of A, same note, and it has this note, the D sharp in it, which is the major 7 in our key of E major. So it's the same two color notes he's been using throughout the whole song. He just found a completely different chord that happens to have those two notes in it. Really clever. There's so many good things about this song that I like, but there are a couple things that really, really irk me. I don't want to come across harsh here. Given the story of how this song came to be, I don't actually think it was all that practical for Jake to do anything different than he did. What I didn't tell you before was that when this song went viral on TikTok, it wasn't finished. You know, TikToks are only 15 to 30 seconds long. He didn't need a whole song. But when it took off, he basically had to produce the whole rest of the song overnight. I think literally that's what he did. Like within a day, he produced the rest of the song. And as a result, when you listen to the 3.5-minute published version on Spotify, it's like he took those 30 seconds and he just stretched it out to 3.5 minutes. I think it's a really interesting musical idea for 30 seconds. I don't think it holds its weight as a full song yet. But if he had written a bridge and had changed keys for that bridge and then come back, it would have been all fresh again. Or maybe if the final chorus uplifted into another key, he could have had one of those big epic moments where the big chorus gets even bigger. So if I were the producer of this song, I would have thought more about the form, the overall arc and story of the song as a whole, as opposed to just how do I stretch out these kind of proven musical moments in the middle. There's two other things I don't like about this song, and both of them are related to the vocals. I really, really don't like the auto-tune. It doesn't feel like the auto-tune was used as a stylistic choice. It felt like it was used as a vocal crutch for him. The auto-tune just makes the vocals so perfect that it's not human anymore. The thing that I like about this song is the emotional pull and the way that he uses those interesting colorful notes to add emotions to it. And what an opportunity it would have been to do something like Adele did with Easy on Me, where you let the vocals be natural, you let them fall out of tune a little bit. The intonation shift actually makes the song feel more human and actually adds more of an emotional connection to the song. And I think the choice to use auto-tune just negated all of that.
I was all alone with the love of my life. She's got glitter for skin, my radiant beam in the night. I don't need no light to see.
The thing that bothers me the most about this whole song, though, is the vocal phrasing. Listen specifically to where he decides to put the breath in the melody line.
It's your golden hour. You slow down time.
It's such a good melody. It's such a good melody, and I wish that he had made that one continuous phrase. That breath in the middle of the phrase just totally kills the phrase for me. One continuous phrase with one continuous breath, I think it would have been so much stronger. It would have had so much more emotional pull. And I know this is probably his vocal training that's helping him take a deep breath before he sings the high note. But even so, in my opinion, it would have made for such a bigger emotional impact on that really important line in the chorus. Up next, I'm going to suggest you watch this video about As by Stevie Wonder. You are not going to believe who plays the keyboard solo in the middle of this song. I had no idea. And hint, it's not Stevie.